The Xylox dreadnought cruised through the swirling mists of the nebula, its sleek, obsidian hull glinting ominously in the distant starlight. Captain Zarthok, a tall, imposing figure with emerald skin and piercing yellow eyes, surveyed the cosmic expanse from the bridge. His crew, a mix of fierce warriors and calculating strategists, buzzed with anticipation. They were on a routine patrol, a display of power to assert dominance over the lesser species of the galaxy. "Captain, we've detected a human vessel ahead," a junior officer announced, his voice cracking with a mix of excitement and disbelief. Zarthok's interest peaked. "Human. What is its designation?" "SS Pioneera, sir. An antiquated model. It appears to be drifting." Laughter erupted among the crew. Zarthok's lips curled into a smirk, a relic from a forgotten age. "Prepare to engage. Let's teach them a lesson in humility." Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneera, Captain Ilara Vasquez stood on the bridge, her heart pounding as she glanced at the blinking lights of her ship's control panel. The Pioneera, once a proud explorer of the stars, had seen better days. The hull was dented, and the paint had chipped away, revealing the faded colors of a bygone era. Still, Ilara held a fierce determination in her heart. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the apprehension swirling in her gut. "Minimal power in the engines, Captain," replied her chief engineer, a wiry man named Marcus, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We're barely holding together, but we can still fight. We've got the plasma cannons charged, and I've rerouted some power from life support to weapons." Ilara nodded, appreciating his resourcefulness. "Good. We may not have the speed or firepower of the Xylox, but we have something they don't: our will to survive." She turned to her crew, a diverse group of scientists, engineers, and former soldiers, each of them carrying the weight of their family's hopes. "We've faced worse than this. We are not just a ship. We are humanity's spirit. We will not go quietly." As Zarthok's dreadnought loomed closer, Ilara activated the ship's sensors, getting a clearer read on their enemy. The Xylox vessel, with its sharp angles and dark metallic sheen, was a stark contrast to her own ship's more rounded, worn features. The Xylox crew, she knew, thrived on intimidation, confident in their advanced technology. But she had something else in her arsenal, a crew that would fight for each other. "Captain, they're hailing us," her communications officer announced, a hint of unease creeping into his tone. "Put it through," Ilara replied, her heart racing. The screen flickered to life, revealing Zarthok's imposing figure. His confident smirk sent a chill down her spine. "Humans," Zarthok's voice boomed, dripping with condescension. "Surrender now, and we might spare your lives. This ancient vessel of yours is no match for the might of the Xylox." Ilara's grip tightened around the armrest of her command chair. "We will never surrender," she declared, her voice steady. "You may underestimate us, but you'll find we're not so easily defeated." Zarthok's laughter echoed across the comms. "We'll see how long your bravado lasts, Captain. Prepare to be crushed." As the transmission ended, Ilara turned to her crew, their faces a mix of fear and determination. "All hands, prepare for battle. This isn't just about us. It's about every human who has ever fought against the odds. Let's show them what we're made of." The crew erupted in a battle cry, a powerful affirmation of their unity and resolve. As the Xylox ship drew closer, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of their courage and ingenuity. As the Xylox dreadnought powered forward, its weapon systems glowing ominously, Captain Ilara Vasquez gathered her crew in the dimly lit command center of the Pioneera. The air was thick with tension, punctuated by the distant hum of the ship's aging machinery. Each crew member, a mix of specialists and seasoned veterans, sensed the gravity of the moment. "Listen up, everyone." Ilara's voice cut through the low murmur. "The Xylox think we're nothing but a junkyard ship, easy prey for their might. They're underestimating us, and we're going to use that to our advantage." Her chief engineer, Marcus, stepped forward, adjusting his glasses nervously. "We may not have the firepower or speed, but we've got a few tricks up our sleeves. I've been working on a power redistribution plan. If we can funnel energy from our shields into our weapon systems, we might just have a fighting chance." A murmur of interest rippled through the crew. Ilara smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. "That's a start, Marcus. What about our evasive maneuvers?" Maya, the ship's pilot, leaned forward, her dark hair framing her determined expression. "I've been studying their patterns. The Dreadnought's a big ship. It has blind spots. If we can time our movements right, we can dodge their fire and counterattack." "Good," Ilara nodded, her confidence building. "We'll be unpredictable. Humans have always thrived on adaptability." She turned her gaze to the weapons officer, Samira, whose hands danced over her control panel. "What's our status on the weapons?" Samira looked up, her eyes sharp. "The plasma cannons are charging, and I can boost the energy output, but it'll drain our reserves quickly. We need to be precise with our shots." "Then let's make every shot count," Ilara replied. "We're not here to play a game of attrition. We'll strike hard and fast." As the crew prepared, a nervous energy filled the room, spurring them into action. Ilara moved among them, offering words of encouragement. She could see the resolve hardening in their eyes. They were more than just a crew. They were a family. Meanwhile, aboard the Dreadnought, Zarthok surveyed his bridge with a sense of superiority. His crew continued to mock the human vessel on their screens. "They think they can resist. Pathetic," he scoffed, dismissing their preparations as futile. "Set a course. We'll fire a warning shot to remind them of their place." As the Xylox ship advanced, Ilara received a sensor alert. "They're coming in hot," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Maya, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Everyone, brace yourselves." The Pioneera jolted as Maya expertly piloted the ship into a hard turn, narrowly avoiding the first volley of plasma fire. The vibrations rattled through the ship, but Ilara held her ground. "Now, fire at their weapon systems." Samira pressed the button, unleashing a concentrated burst of energy. The shot streaked through the void and struck the Dreadnought's starboard side. The burst of sparks erupted from the enemy vessel, and the Xylox crew momentarily faltered. "Direct hit," Samira shouted, exhilaration coursing through her voice. "Keep it up," Ilara encouraged, feeling the adrenaline electrify the room. "They'll regroup. We need to stay one step ahead." Zarthok, regaining his composure, gritted his teeth in frustration. "Adjust our targeting systems. We can't let these insignificant beings humiliate us." Back on the Pioneera, Ilara's crew exchanged glances filled with determination. They weren't just fighting for their survival, they were fighting for the very essence of humanity. As they engaged in a game of cat and mouse, each evasive maneuver and calculated shot served to ignite their hope and resolve, a testament to the human spirit that would not be extinguished. The battle had only just begun, and Ilara felt an unshakable belief that they could turn the tide against their formidable adversaries. The Xylox may have underestimated them, but they would soon learn that humans were far more than they appeared. The tension in the Pioneera surged as Captain Ilara Vasquez surveyed her crew. The console lights cast flickering shadows across determined faces, each one focused on their task. Outside, the Xylox Dreadnought loomed ominously, its weapons charged and primed for another assault. Ilara could almost feel the weight of the enemy ship pressing down on them, but she refused to let fear creep in. "Status report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the clamor of machinery and hurried conversations. "Enemy ship is closing in. They're charging their main cannons." Maya, the pilot, shouted as she deftly maneuvered the Pioneera through the debris of the nebula, using its dense clouds for cover. "Get ready to execute evasive maneuvers on my mark," Ilara instructed, her heart pounding in sync with the ship's thumping engines. She glanced at Marcus, who was frantically rerouting power. "Shields are at 50%. We can divert more power to weapons, but it'll leave us vulnerable," he warned, his brow glistening with sweat. "Do it. We need to show them we're not just a target," Ilara replied, her resolve hardening. "Samira, prepare to fire on my command." The Xylox ship came into focus, its formidable silhouette outlined against the backdrop of stars. Zarthok stood confidently on his bridge, eyes narrowed in satisfaction as he watched the Pioneer's movements on his display. He couldn't help but chuckle at what he perceived as a futile struggle. "Fire a warning shot," he ordered, the smirk on his face widening. "Let them know we're not to be trifled with." Ilara's heart raced as she witnessed the flicker of energy build up on the dreadnought's cannons. "Brace for impact," she shouted, adrenaline flooding her system. The dreadnought fired. A searing beam of energy shot toward them. Maya jerked the controls, executing a sharp turn just in time. The shot grazed the side of the Pioneera, causing the ship to shudder violently. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed as they barely avoided a catastrophic hit. "Now, fire," Ilara commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. With a surge of energy, Samira unleashed their plasma cannon. The shot zipped through the void, striking the dreadnought's weapon systems with a satisfying explosion of sparks. The Xylox crew reeled from the unexpected counterattack, and the bridge filled with disarray as Zarthok's arrogance faltered. "Direct hit," Samira shouted, a triumphant grin breaking across her face. "Keep the pressure on," Ilara urged, a rush of adrenaline surging through her veins. "We need to disrupt their fire capabilities." Zarthok, his expression shifting from amusement to anger, barked orders to his crew. "Regain control, target the humans, and retaliate." The dreadnought returned fire, but this time, the Pioneera was ready. Maya expertly maneuvered the ship, weaving through the incoming blasts with unexpected agility. The crew felt a surge of hope as they began to understand that their vessel, though old, was more adaptable than its Xylox counterpart. "Charging plasma cannon again," Samira shouted, excitement lacing her voice. "We've got a clear shot at their engines." "Take it," Ilara commanded, her heart racing. The cannon discharged once more, and the bolt of energy shot forth, striking true. The dreadnought's engines flared, and an alarm blared on their bridge. Zarthok's fury erupted as he realized the humans were turning the tide. "Prepare to board. I will not be humiliated by these pathetic creatures." On the Pioneera ***, Ilara could feel the energy shift. They were no longer the underdogs cowering in fear. They were warriors fighting for their survival, embodying the spirit of humanity. "Everyone, prepare for hand-to-hand combat. They're coming for us," Ilara shouted, her voice echoing with fierce determination. As her crew readied themselves, the ship shook with the force of another hit. Ilara's heart raced, but she felt a fierce pride in her crew. They were more than just a crew. They were a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. And they would show the Xylox that they were far from easy prey. The air crackled with tension as the ***Xylox dreadnought *** maneuvered for a boarding approach. Captain Ilara Vasquez could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had always believed in her crew, but now they were about to face a pivotal moment that would test their resolve and ingenuity. "Marcus, how long until our shields are back up?" Ilara asked, her eyes scanning the control panel for updates. 15 seconds if I can reroute the remaining power," he shouted, fingers flying over the controls. "But we're still exposed until then." "Understood," Ilara replied, glancing at Maya, who was adjusting the ship's trajectory to minimize exposure. "Let's make our next moves count." On the dreadnought's bridge, Zarthok seethed with frustration. "Prepare to board. I want those humans captured." He knew that a swift invasion would crush the human spirit, making an example of them for all lesser species. As the Xylox boarding pods detached, Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "They're coming," she yelled. "Everyone, to your stations." The crew sprang into action, armed with makeshift weapons, tools, plasma cutters, and anything they could find to defend their ship. Samira stood at the weapons console, ready to defend their home. "Once they breach, we'll fall back to the engine room," Ilara instructed. "It's a tight space. We can use it to our advantage." Maya nodded, her expression fierce. "I'll keep the ship moving. If I can outmaneuver their pods, we can prevent them from boarding all at once." With a sudden jolt, the dreadnought fired again, this time targeting the Pioneer's starboard side. The ship shook violently, and alarms blared once more. "Shields are down," Marcus shouted, his voice edged with panic. "Activate emergency protocols," Ilara ordered. "We need to seal the doors and prepare for close combat." The lights flickered as the emergency lockdown engaged, sealing off sections of the ship. Ilara took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who has ever faced insurmountable odds." Just as the first Xylox boarding pod made contact with the Pioneer's hull, Ilara's crew prepared to unleash their plan. The pod blasted open, and a group of Xylox warriors spilled onto the deck, their alien forms imposing against the dim lighting of the ship. "Now," Ilara shouted, and the crew surged forward, launching themselves at the invaders. In the chaos, the crew utilized every scrap of ingenuity they had. Ilara swung a plasma cutter, narrowly missing a Xylox soldier, but causing a shower of sparks. Marcus threw a wrench, striking another alien squarely in the chest, sending it stumbling back. As the battle raged, Samira maneuvered between the skirmishes, firing improvised plasma blasts that sent shockwaves through the dreadnought soldiers. The Pioneer's tight quarters became an advantage as the crew worked in unison, using their environment to counter the more technologically advanced Xylox. Zarthok's voice boomed over the chaos. "Do not underestimate them. They are weak. Crush them." Ilara, fueled by the raw energy of survival, led a group of her crew toward the engines. "Fall back. To the engine room," she shouted, her heart racing. As they retreated, Ilara felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about the ship. It was about proving that humans could outthink their foes. They were not merely surviving. They were fighting back. Once in the engine room, the crew barricaded the door and prepared for the Xylox onslaught. Ilara quickly surveyed the room, her mind racing. "We can rig the engines to create a controlled explosion. It'll send them off balance, giving us an advantage." Maya's eyes widened. "Are you serious? That's a huge risk." "We have no choice. We need to show them that humanity won't go down without a fight," Ilara replied, her voice unwavering. The crew rallied around her, their determination solidifying. They quickly set to work, knowing that this was a chance to turn the tide. As the Xylox broke through the door, Ilara steeled herself, ready to show their foes that humanity was more than a target. They were a force to be reckoned with. The door to the engine room splintered under the force of the Xylox boarding party, the metallic screech echoing ominously. Captain Ilara Vasquez held her breath, adrenaline surging through her body as she glanced at her crew. They were outnumbered, but their resolve was unyielding. The Pioneer had been their home for years, and they would defend it with everything they had. "Get ready," Ilara shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. "When they breach, we fight smart. Remember the plan." Maya positioned herself near the control console, her fingers poised over the controls. "I'll manage the engines. When I give the signal, we'll create an overload. It should create a shockwave that knocks them off balance." Marcus, crouched behind a makeshift barricade of crates, nodded. "Just make sure you time it right. We can't afford any mistakes." With a final crash, the Xylox warriors burst into the room, their eyes flashing with malice. Zarthok followed closely behind, his imposing figure silhouetted in the doorway. Crush them, he roared, brandishing his energy blade. The crew sprang into action. Ilara ducked and weaved, using the tight space to her advantage. She grabbed a wrench and swung it with all her might, connecting with a Xylox soldier and sending it sprawling. Behind her, Samira unleashed a series of plasma shots, creating a flickering wall of energy that forced the intruders to scatter. "Now, Maya," Ilara yelled, her heart pounding as she pushed forward, fighting back against the encroaching Xylox. Maya punched in the final commands, sweat glistening on her brow. Overload in 3, 2, 1. The engines roared to life with a thunderous boom, and a shockwave pulsed through the room. The Xylox soldiers stumbled, thrown off balance by the sudden surge of power. Ilara seized the moment, launching herself at Zarthok. "Enough of this," she shouted, dodging his blade and grappling for control of it. The two struggled, their faces inches apart, each pushing with all their strength. "You are nothing but insects," Zarthok spat, trying to push her away. "Then let's see how well you crush insects," Ilara replied, summoning every ounce of strength. With a quick twist, she managed to wrest the energy blade from Zarthok's grasp, sending it clattering across the floor. In that instant, Marcus charged in, grabbing Zarthok from behind. "Now, hit him," he yelled, and the crew pounced. They surrounded the Xylox captain, their unity amplifying their strength. Ilara felt a surge of hope, but it was short-lived as Zarthok roared in anger, pulling free from Marcus's grip. "Fools!" he bellowed, grabbing a fallen weapon from the ground. "You think you can defeat me? I will make you pay." The Pioneera shook violently as the battle raged on. Ilara felt the fear creeping in but pushed it away, focusing on the task at hand. "We can't let him escape," she cried. "If he gets back to the dreadnought, we're finished." Samira aimed her plasma weapon, but before she could pull the trigger, another group of Xylox surged into the room, reinforcements sent by Zarthok. "We need to fall back," Maya shouted, desperately trying to hold the line. "Not yet," Ilara insisted, a spark of defiance igniting in her chest. "We can't let them gain any ground." With a swift motion, she grabbed a nearby power conduit and hurled it toward the approaching Xylox. The resulting explosion sent sparks flying and debris scattering, causing a momentary disruption. "Now," Ilara shouted, her voice filled with fierce determination. "Everyone, to the engines. We'll use the ship's systems to create a barrier." As the crew retreated toward the engines, Zarthok snarled in frustration, his pride wounded. "You think you can escape? I will hunt you down." The crew scrambled, working in unison to barricade the entrance with everything they could find. Ilara felt her heart race as she glanced back at the now barricaded door. They had to hold out just a little longer. "Keep working on the overload," she urged, rallying her crew. "We're not done yet." As the Xylox pounded on the barricades, Ilara could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. This was their stand, their fight for survival. They were not just defending a ship, they were defending the very essence of humanity. And she would not let them down. With renewed vigor, she readied herself for the next wave of battle, determined to show Zarthok that humans were anything but easy prey. The sound of pounding fists reverberated through the engine room as Captain Ilara Vasquez and her crew fortified their makeshift barricades. The Xylox soldiers outside were relentless, and each impact sent shudders through the Pioneera's metal hull. Ilara felt the weight of their situation pressing down on her, but she steeled herself, determined not to show fear. "Everyone, prepare for the final stand," she shouted, rallying her crew. "We've held them back this long. We can't let up now." As the Xylox soldiers continued their assault, Ilara's heart raced. She knew Zarthok would not stop until he had captured or eliminated them all. "Maya, keep an eye on the power levels. We need that overload ready." Maya nodded, her face a mask of concentration as she monitored the fluctuating energy readings. "Almost there. Just need a few more seconds to stabilize the energy core." Suddenly, the barricade began to give way under the relentless assault. Ilara could see the shadows of the Xylox warriors looming beyond the debris. "We have to make our stand here," she urged, grabbing a makeshift weapon, a heavy plasma cutter. "Prepare to engage." The door finally burst open, and a wave of Xylox soldiers flooded into the room, their weapons drawn and snarls echoing in the confined space. Zarthok followed closely behind, his eyes ablaze with rage. "Crush them," he roared, brandishing his energy blade. Ilara stepped forward, raising her weapon defiantly. "We will not go quietly. This is our ship, our home." The clash was immediate and brutal. Ilara swung the plasma cutter with all her might, connecting with the nearest Xylox warrior, who stumbled back, clutching its side. Behind her, her crew fought fiercely, using every resource at their disposal. Marcus wielded a wrench like a club, while Samira fired her plasma weapon with deadly precision. "Fall back." To the engines, Ilara shouted, coordinating their retreat as they pressed deeper into the heart of the ship. The Xylox pressed in, their superior numbers a daunting challenge, but the humans fought with a desperation born of survival. Ilara's heart raced as she felt the tide of battle shift, fueled by the determination to protect what was theirs. In the chaos, Maya shouted, "We're almost ready. Just hold them off a little longer." With a swift motion, Ilara grabbed a nearby power conduit and hurled it toward the approaching Xylox. The resulting explosion sent sparks flying and debris scattering, causing a momentary disruption. "Now," Ilara shouted, her voice filled with fierce determination. "Everyone, to the engines. We'll use the ship's systems to create a barrier." As the crew retreated toward the engines, Zarthok snarled in frustration, his pride wounded. "You think you can escape? I will hunt you down." The crew scrambled, working in unison to barricade the entrance with everything they could find. Ilara felt her heart race as she glanced back at the now barricaded door. They had to hold out just a little longer. "Keep working on the overload," she urged, rallying her crew. "We're not done yet." As the Xylox pounded on the barricades, Ilara could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. This was their stand, their fight for survival. They were not just defending a ship, they were defending the very essence of humanity, and she would not let them down. With renewed vigor, she readied herself for the next wave of battle, determined to show Zarthok that humans were anything but easy prey. The deafening noise of the Xylox soldiers crashing against the barricades reverberated throughout the Pioneera's engine room. Captain Ilara Vasquez felt her heart race with every impact, but her resolve remained unyielding. This was it, their last chance to turn the tide against their merciless enemies. "Maya, how close are we to the overload?" Ilara shouted over the din, glancing at her pilot who was hunched over the control panel, fingers flying over the keys. "Almost there. Just need a few more seconds to stabilize the energy core," Maya replied, her brow glistening with sweat. "Hold on," Ilara shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. "We need to buy time." With renewed determination, Ilara positioned herself near the barricade, plasma cutter at the ready. "Get ready to fight," she called out to her crew. They needed to make this last stand count. The Xylox soldiers were relentless, and Zarthok, now visibly furious, pushed through the breach in the barricade, his energy blade crackling ominously. "You think you can hide behind that flimsy barrier?" he taunted, stepping forward. "I will end you myself." The crew surged forward to intercept Zarthok, but Ilara stood firm. "No, he's mine," she charged, the plasma cutter gleaming in her hand. The clash of metal rang through the room as Ilara engaged Zarthok directly. He was a skilled fighter, his movements fluid and deadly. Each of her strikes was met with his, the two locked in a dangerous dance of power and will. Behind them, the crew fought off the other Xylox soldiers, desperate to hold them back. Marcus swung his wrench with all his might, while Samira covered them with precise plasma shots. The room was a whirlwind of chaos, and Ilara could feel the energy around them building. "Now, Maya," Ilara shouted, her voice echoing through the tumult. Maya pressed the final sequence on the console, her heart pounding. "Overload initiated. Get ready." Ilara took a breath, focusing on Zarthok. "You're not going to win this," she declared, pushing him back with all her strength. "Foolish human." Zarthok snarled, swinging his blade in a fierce arc. Ilara ducked, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike, and retaliated with a thrust of her own. But as their battle raged, the ship shook violently, the engines roared, and a blinding light enveloped the room. "Everyone, to the exit," Ilara shouted, her instincts kicking in. "We need to get out now." As the crew retreated, the blast wave from the engines sent shockwaves through the corridor, throwing Zarthok off balance. Ilara took advantage of the moment, rushing forward to tackle them. They both tumbled to the ground, and Ilara scrambled to her feet. "Fall back," she commanded her crew as they made their way toward the emergency exit, adrenaline surging. The Pioneera trembled again, and Ilara could feel the impending explosion echoing through the metal walls. "Go! Now!" she shouted, pushing her crew ahead of her. Just as Zarthok regained his footing, Ilara caught sight of a fiery explosion erupting from the engine room. "You may have won this battle, but I will not forget this insult," he bellowed, his voice filled with fury as he rushed toward her. Ilara turned and bolted, her heart pounding. "We'll see about that," she shouted back over her shoulder, knowing they had to escape before the whole ship detonated. As they sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of chaos faded behind them, replaced by the roar of flames and the screams of the Xylox soldiers. They were getting closer to the escape pods, and Ilara felt a flicker of hope. "Almost there," Maya shouted, leading the charge. The crew reached the escape bay, where the pods awaited. They scrambled inside, urgency fueling their movements. "Launch," Ilara commanded, the hatch sealing behind them, just as the ship erupted into a magnificent fireball, the shockwave sending their escape pod hurtling into the safety of space. Breathless, the crew huddled together, staring at the brilliant explosion in the distance. They had survived, together. Ilara took a deep breath, allowing the reality of their victory to wash over her. They were battered but unbroken, ready to face whatever came next. Humanity had shown its strength, and they would not be forgotten. In the quiet aftermath of their narrow escape, the crew of the Pioneera gathered in the small confines of their escape pod, breathless and battered but undeniably victorious. Outside, the remnants of their once mighty ship drifted in a cloud of fiery debris, a stark reminder of the battle they had fought and won. Ilara leaned against the wall, her heart still racing from the adrenaline. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, scanning the faces of her crew. Relief washed over her as she noted nods and murmurs of affirmation. Maya looked up, her expression a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "I can't believe we did it. We actually turned the tide against them." "Against all odds," Marcus added, wiping sweat from his brow. "I thought we were done for." Ilara smiled, pride swelling in her chest. "That's the spirit of humanity. We refuse to give up. We'll come back stronger, and we'll make sure Zarthok knows he messed with the wrong species." Samira's eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief. "Next time, we should bring a few more toys. That energy blade of Zarthok's would look great in our trophy case." Laughter broke the tension, and for a moment, the gravity of their situation lifted. But as the laughter faded, the reality of their next steps settled in. "Where do we go from here?" Maya asked, her fingers dancing over the controls. "We need to contact the Alliance and let them know what happened." "Good idea," Ilara replied. "But let's do it from a safe distance. We can't risk another encounter with the Xylox right now." Maya plotted a course, and as the escape pod drifted away from the wreckage, Ilara felt a sense of purpose wash over her. They would regroup, recover, and share their story, a tale of defiance against a seemingly unstoppable force. As they made their way toward the Alliance outpost, Ilara glanced out the viewport, the stars twinkling in the darkness of space. "We've proven ourselves today," she said, her voice steady. "And we'll continue to fight for our place among the stars. The Xylocs may have underestimated us, but they'll remember the name Pioneera." Her crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They were battered but not broken. They had faced the abyss and emerged victorious, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. With their course set, Elara felt a renewed sense of determination. They would regroup, train, and prepare for the next encounter. They would show the galaxy that humans were a force to be reckoned with. As the escape pod sped through the void, Elara Vasquez smiled, knowing this was only the beginning of their journey. They would rise from the ashes of defeat, ready to carve their own destiny among the stars.